The building was finished. 7 years of work. Stone, cedar, gold. The priests carried a wooden chest up the hill and set it down in the darkest room in Israel. Then they walked out, and the house filled with cloud. Not smoke from the altar. Something heavier. The Hebrew word is anan. A thick, low cloud, the kind that sits on a mountain and hides it. And the priests could not stand up to do their work. Think about that. These were men trained from childhood for that room, trained to move in silence, without a wasted step. They could not stay on their feet. The most expensive building in Israel's history was, on its opening day, empty of the only people licensed to work in it. That is where this story starts, not with what Solomon built, with what arrived. 1 Kings 6 gives us a date. Construction began 480 years after Israel came out of Egypt. Following the early date exodus of 1446 BC, the first stone is placed around 966 BC. But it starts earlier, with an old king who was told no. David wanted to build it. He was refused. So he stockpiled. Chronicles says he set aside 100,000 talents of gold. In modern weight, roughly 3,400 metric tons. Most scholars read that as royal hyperbole, a later weight standard, or a copying error. But Alan Millard and Kenneth Kitchen push back. Pharaoh Osorkon I is recorded as having donated over 380 tons of gold and silver to Egyptian temples in 4 years. Kings in that world really did sheath walls in metal. Whatever the figure, the wealth bought something Israel did not have: skill. Israel could farm. Israel could fight. Israel could not cast bronze on a monumental scale. So Solomon signed a treaty with Tyre. Tyre was a Phoenician city built on an island, brilliant at ships, metal, and timber, terrible at growing food. The deal writes itself: cedar and craftsmen going south, wheat, wine, and oil going north. Then the workforce: 70,000 carriers, 80,000 quarrymen, 30,000 Israelites rotating in shifts. That levy is the grievance that later tears the kingdom in half. And then the line that has fascinated builders for 3,000 years. The stone was made ready at the quarry. No hammer, no axe, no iron tool was heard in the house while it was being built. Read that as a site manager, and it is not mysticism. It is prefabrication, a construction site the size of a palace, where the loudest sound is whoop and breathing. They built the house of God in near silence. Let us walk in. First question, how big is it? That depends on the cubit, and there were two. A short one of about 44 centimeters and a long royal cubit of about 52, which surveyor David Milson identified in the 10th century gatehouses at Gezer, Megiddo, and Hazor. The building was small, 60 cubits long, 20 wide, 30 high. Around 3,000 square feet, roughly the footprint of a double tennis court. It was never an auditorium. Nobody sat inside. It was a house. Literally, buy it. A residence for a king who does not eat. The people stayed outside, in the enormous courts. You approach from the east. Outer court with everyone else. Then the inner court, priests only. A bronze altar, 20 cubits square, and beside it a basin so large it has a name of its own. The Bronze Sea, 15 feet across, standing on the backs of 12 bronze bulls, 3 facing each direction of the compass. 10,000 gallons of water, resting on cattle. Hold that image. We come back to it. At the top of the steps, 2 pillars. Jaikin on the right, Boaz on the left. 27 feet tall, cast hollow, capped with bronze lily work, and 400 bronze pomegranates. Nobody is certain what they were for. Yosef Garfinkel and Madeleine Mumcuoglu argue they carried the porch roof. Others say they stood free, as monuments, William Foxwell Albright suggested their capitals were giant fire bowls, lit at festivals. And R.B.Y. Scott argued the names are a sentence. Jachin, he establishes. Boaz, in strength. God establishes David's house in strength. A sentence, cast in bronze, 10 meters tall. You pass between them into the porch, then through gilded doors into the Hekal, the holy place, 40 cubits long, cedar-paneled floor to ceiling, so no stone is visible, carved with palm trees, open flowers, and winged figures, all of it under gold. And then the last wall, olive wood doors, and a veil of blue, purple, and crimson, embroidered with cherubim. Behind it, the debir. 20 cubits by 20 by 20, a perfect cube, raised up a short flight of steps. Inside, 2 olive wood cherubim, 15 feet tall, plated in gold, wings touching wall to wall. And no windows. Total, permanent darkness. Entered once a year. The most valuable room in the kingdom is a room nobody sees. Now, why this shape? Because none of it is decoration. It is an argument, built in stone. Start with the carvings: palms, flowers, pomegranates, gold walls. Gordon Wenham, G.K. Beale, and John Levenson have all made the case that the temple is a garden. Specifically, the garden. Wenham's evidence is linguistic. The 2 verbs describing Adam's job in Eden, to work and to keep, appear paired everywhere else in the law to describe one thing only: the duty of priests in the sanctuary. Adam is being described as a priest. Eden is being described as a sanctuary, and then the guards. When humanity is exiled from Eden, cherubim are stationed at the east gate to block the way back. In the temple, cherubim are carved on the doors and embroidered on the veil, standing 15 feet tall in the dark room. Even the direction is a statement. Eden's gate faced east, so exile went east. The temple's only entrance faces east, which means every priest who walks in is walking west. Back up the road, humanity was sent down. Not everyone accepts this. Daniel Block argues a temple is what you build. After you have lost the presence. In Eden, they had the presence itself. No building required. Second idea, graded holiness. The complex is a set of rings, and each ring costs more to enter. Outside the city, common ground. The outer court, clean Israelites. The inner court, priests. The cube, 1 man, 1 day a year. Third idea, and this is my favorite. The Bronze Sea. Every culture around Israel told a version of the same story. In the Babylonian epic, the god Marduk kills Tiamat, the ocean of chaos, and builds the world out of her body. Then he sets his temple on top of the defeated waters, like a lid on a drain. The sea was the enemy, always straining to break back in, so Solomon puts a sea in his courtyard. He casts it out of solid bronze. He measures it. He parks it on cattle, and he uses it to wash hands. That is not decoration. That is a joke with a theology inside it. In Genesis, the deep does not fight. It is told where to go, and it goes. Israel took the most terrifying image in the ancient world and turned it into plumbing. It is autumn, the 7th month, the Feast of Tabernacles. The temple was dedicated at this feast, and the sacrifice list in Numbers 29 is unlike any other week of the year. 13 bulls on day 1, 12 on day 2, counting down to 7, 70 in total. Now, a ritual text from the Syrian city of Emar describes a 7-day autumn festival with 70 sacrifices, one for each of the 70 gods of the city. Israel keeps the number and deletes the gods. Because in Genesis chapter 10, 70 is the number of the nations of the earth, which means Israel spent the biggest week of its year sacrificing on behalf of everybody else. Rain and mercy were asked for on behalf of people who were not there. Solomon's walled city was perhaps 40 acres, with maybe 2,000 residents. But at festival, the city was not the venue. The valleys were. A town of 2,000, drowning in a nation. The sound. This was not a quiet place. It was closer to a stadium. 3 Levitical guilds founded under Assaf, Heman, and Jeduthun. Lyres, deeper harps underneath, bronze cymbals marking the turns, and 120 priests with straight silver trumpets, not playing tunes but firing short blasts to signal each stage of the sacrifice, and the choir singing back and forth against itself, answered by a whole crowd faces down on the stone, shouting the same line over and over, "For he is good. His mercy endures forever." And that wall of sound is doing a job, because underneath it is a slaughterhouse. On a festival day, hundreds of animals were processed at speed, thousands of liters of blood, on stone, in Mediterranean heat. So the priests engineered against it. The floor was graded, and water flushed the pavement into channels running out through the eastern wall into the Kidron Valley. Against the smell, one countermeasure. Incense. Twice daily, aromatic roots and barks and resins were heaped onto live coals on the golden altar inside. Thick, sweet smoke that soaked into the curtains, the cedar, and the priest's clothes and never fully left. The strongest memory of the temple, for most people who went, was probably not a sight. It was a smell they could not wash out of their coat. A caution here. Our most detailed pilgrim's eye descriptions come from later sources describing Herod's temple, 1,000 years after Solomon, not the first building. But the shape of the journey is old, because the theology is old. You arrive impure, and you wash. You climb. You go as far as your status permits, and then you stop at a line. And if you brought an animal, you cross that line once. You put both hands on its head. You lean your weight onto it. You say out loud, in front of everyone, what you came to say. Thanks, or confession. Then you step back behind the line, and you watch someone else finish it for you. That is the whole system in one gesture. You may touch it, you may not complete it. So where is it? Here is the uncomfortable answer. Nobody has ever conducted a controlled archaeological excavation on the Temple Mount. Not once. And even if you could dig, there is a second problem. Herod. In the 1st century BC, Herod the Great expanded the platform with colossal retaining walls and hundreds of thousands of tons of fill. Anything Solomonic is buried under it, scraped away by it, or cut to pieces by Romans, Byzantines, Umayyads, Crusaders, and Ottomans in turn. So when someone tells you there is no archaeological evidence for Solomon's temple, that is true, and it means much less than it sounds. Absence of evidence is only evidence of absence if you have actually looked. Here, the spade has never gone in. But the argument continues. And it is not about the temple. It is about whether there was a kingdom capable of building one. The minimalist case has 3 legs. Chronology. Israel Finkelstein's low chronology shifts the dates down by up to 100 years, reassigning the famous gates at Megiddo, Hazor, and Gezer to the northern Omride kings. And literacy. David Jamieson-Drake argued the markers of real bureaucracy do not appear in Judah until the 8th century. Philip Davies and Thomas Thompson went further. Ancient Israel is an invention of much later scribes. In 1993, at Tel Dan, excavators found a shattered victory monument raised by an Aramean king. 9th century. Written by an enemy. And on it, the phrase House of David. Not scripture, not Israelite propaganda. A hostile neighbor naming the dynasty he was fighting. Then Khirbet Qeiyafa, a fortified city overlooking the Elah Valley, excavated by Yosef Garfinkel and radiocarbon dated to roughly 1010 to 969 BC. Casemate walls. 2 monumental gates. An early alphabetic inscription. And no pig bones. Somebody in Judah was building fortified cities and writing things down at exactly the moment the minimalist model says nobody could. And then the parallels. 3 temples, none of them Israelite. Ein Dara in northern Syria, excavated by Ali Abu Assaf. Tel Tayinat in Turkey, under Timothy Harrison. And Tel Motza, 7 kilometers from Jerusalem, under Shua Kisilevitz and Oded Lipschits. All 3 share it. Raised platform. Porch, hall, inner room in a line. 2 columns at the door. Side chambers wrapping 3 sides. A Judahite temple, built to the same plan in the same period, within walking distance of the city. The temple described in 1 Kings is not Persian. It is not Greek. It is a late Bronze and Iron Age West Semitic temple, described with correct technical vocabulary. A writer inventing this 500 years later would not have got the architecture right. He would have described the buildings he knew. 2 famous artifacts were once claimed for the first temple, the ivory pomegranate and the Jehoash inscription. Both were judged modern forgeries, but the clay seal impressions dug from a sealed destruction layer in the city of David are unquestioned, because they came out of the ground under supervision. So, the honest verdict: solid. A Davidic dynasty in Jerusalem, confirmed by an enemy's monument. Solid. The architecture in 1 Kings is authentic Iron Age design. Reasonable. A temple to Yahweh stood on that ridge as the royal sanctuary of that dynasty. Contested. The imperial scale. The gold. The reach from the Euphrates to Egypt. And unknowable for now, the foundation lines themselves. What was actually in the rooms? The spade has not been allowed to ask. Here is what strikes me most. Every other temple in that world had a statue in the innermost room. You built the house, you carved the god, and then you fed him, dressed him, and washed him. Solomon built the house, paneled it in cedar, covered it in gold, filled it with carved trees and flowers and guardian creatures, and then he left the middle of it empty. No image, no face, nothing to see. Just a wooden chest under 2 enormous wings, and above it, a space. That was the address. The building did not last. Babylon burned it 4 centuries later and carried the bronze away in pieces. But by then, something strange had happened. The temple had become portable, not in stone, but in memory. A people in exile carried the floor plan in their heads and rebuilt it every time they read it aloud. A building nobody can dig up is a building nobody can destroy. But there is still that chest, 2 stone tablets inside it, and nothing else. Carried through a wilderness, captured by Philistines. Left in a field, brought up to Jerusalem on a day that ended in a death. Set down in the dark under those wings. And then, at some point, gone. No burning, no capture record, no inventory line. The most important object in Israel's history stops being mentioned. Where did the Ark of the Covenant go? That is where we go next.